Hello and welcome to a brand new episode. In fact, the 100th episode of the Holistic Business and Life Mastery Show. I'm your host, Supriya Roy, Holistic Business and Marketing Coach. Today's episode is all about how you can turn failure into meaningful feedback that will help you grow. Let's get started. How are you? I'm so excited about us reaching 100th episode on this podcast show. You know, we started off with just an idea back in 2020. And since then, our community has grown, our message has sharpened, and we've talked about pretty much everything. We've talked about health, energy, spirituality. We've talked about business, marketing, mindset, and we've also talked about how to be a better human. So we've talked about a lot. And if you go through the episodes that we've made with our special podcast guests, if you've been in the holistic industry, you'll recognize some of their names as well. And so been very blessed to have continued this long. And I'm looking forward to many more guests coming on this show to, impart their wisdom with our community. But also, I am truly grateful for all your support and love and audienceship. Okay. Without you, this channel and podcast show would not keep going. So thank you so much for all your support. And for those of you that are brand new in our community, hey, welcome. And I trust all of this that we bring every week is adding much value to your journey. And we intend on keeping on going. So thank you so much for being here with us. And let's keep going, shall we? So let's talk about this week's topic, which is how can we grow from negative feedback or outcomes using a model that I will share with you. But when we talk about the mindset of looking at a thing like a negative feedback or a negative result, it's not easy, is it? It's not easy to look at the positive things straight away. And I'm going to come off, the regular things that you hear out there about mindset, about everything that is all positivity oriented. I want to challenge you to think about it like this. If you are feeling, say, offended or insulted or whatever those, lower vibrational, meaning the lower scale of the vibrational chart, if you're feeling shame, guilt, or any kind of anger or fear from having received negative feedback or having experienced a negative outcome on your journey of building your business, then I'm here to tell you the reason why you're feeling that way is because you give a damn. Okay? And I'm glad that you are feeling an emotion. Because what I don't want you to learn to do is just looking at fixing the outside, meaning taking those actions to improve the outcomes just by looking at the strategy. We're also looking at what caused the strategy to be used this way. Okay, so this is going to be an interesting talk if you are experiencing unwanted results and experiencing some sort of hardship in terms of whatever you're passionate about. Maybe you're trying to create your space in your industry. Maybe you're trying to get new clients. Maybe you're trying to grow your business. Maybe you're trying to grow your team. Maybe you're trying to do better presentations, talks. I'm constantly on this growing journey, like I shared with you last week. But yeah, I would congratulate you for, acknowledging that you care about what you do, and however you're feeling is a legitimate emotion that needs your respect, that needs honoring. Okay, so it's not all strategy, you see. It's also this emotional healing that can happen through recognizing the purpose of receiving negative feedback or achieving negative results. Okay. Another thing I want to share with you on the road to growth. So today's topic is all about how do we grow from negative feedback or negative outcomes. And when we are looking at the journey of growth, growth is never comfortable, okay? So another thing you've got to always remind yourself is whatever you are uncomfortable about today is letting you know what your comfort zone is or was just a moment before it happened. Okay, so if you just think about something simple as, taking a cold shower. I take a cold shower daily because it's a warmer season now, though I take it daily, but I'm finding myself every day saying, yes, I can do this, because I've got to remind myself, even though it's uncomfortable, I still got to show up with a little bit of a, extra effort because it's not comfortable. Now, I'm not going to go into why cold showers are good for my growth or good for your growth, but I'm just giving you an example of becoming aware of your comfort zone and how it gets challenged. And when you're on this journey of growth, you will definitely, inevitably face being uncomfortable pretty much as to the proportion of growth you welcome into your life. And yeah, so just become aware to the fact that if you are experiencing this level of discomfort with whatever results you have created, then it also lets you know that you are growing, especially when it's not feeling comfortable, especially it's not letting you know that, it's not okay to do things like this, okay? Because if it were to be the other way around, suppose, and a lot of people do go through this, you might be looking around you going, well, why don't the others experience this sort of hardship? Why don't the others receive negative feedback like this? Okay. Well, a lot of people are in their comfort zone, operating in their comfort zone, and so they won't receive any kind of feedback that's unexpected, or they don't expose themselves to experiences where they can be exposed to new feedback which may not feel comfortable, new outcomes that will not feel will feel uncomfortable, that won't feel comfortable. Okay, so the number 3 thing you've got to remember is you are experiencing this because you are in a new zone of experiencing things. You've put yourself into the situation that has given you an outcome. Now that outcome, yes, it's uncomfortable, it's ugly, it's not what you want, but guess what? It's a new experience. I'm a big proponent of using, philosophy, spirituality, and bridging it with practicality. So today's episode will look at how you can use this spiritual outlook of being detached enough to, feel the emotions, look at the situation, but also take action to be able to create conscious outcomes, to be able to be the leader of your life, be the person that takes 100% responsibility to change that outcome, change that feedback for your own growth. Not that you're going to be able to change that past result, though maybe the next time you do the same thing, you will have a different outcome because you would have grown from what you found out through what I'm about to share with you, what to do about negative feedback and negative outcomes, how to actually grow from it. It's not going to help you grow if you sit there and say, well, whatever the universe brought into my life is for the better of me, and just leave it there. Okay, I was guilty of this for a long time because to me, I hadn't understood the proper meaning of karma Meaning, I used to think that what I'm receiving is a result of my karma and just left it there, not realizing that karma is the principle of cause and effect, and that I get to choose. If I take responsibility for what I am doing, for how I am contributing to the situation, then I get to change what's my participation in it, right? I get to change the outcome by changing what's caused it. Okay, so let's look at that today, because I want you to think about how are you thinking about negative feedback or negative results. And don't just leave it at spiritualizing it. Don't just leave it at practicalizing it. They both got to work together, because you are a spiritual being having a human experience, and to evolve, you must do both. You got to master both. You got to master being in this vehicle to actualize yourself fully, okay? All right, so let's look at an example of what I mean by negative feedback or negative outcome. So let's see what kind of results you are trying to create in a business, okay? We're trying to create leads, okay? We're trying to create immediate sales, and we're trying to create long-term sales, aren't we? Though everything that we do will create those results. Those are results, okay? But in simple terms, that result is your desired result, but oftentimes you will face not receiving that result as you had wanted it if you don't follow and if you don't put yourself on the road to pursue those results. So there are factors or causative factors that create those results. And one such thing is marketing, right? Marketing that leads to people inquiring, that is a lead. Marketing that causes those leads to actually inquire on how they can work with you, which ends up in a conversation to work with you and sale. And then it's the reselling process, which is sales mastery, that leads to and causes long-term sales. Is this clear? So the example of negative outcomes in a business might be that feedback could be coming from people that you're marketing to. They may be giving you feedback like no response, no engagement. Okay, you may be posting every day, but no one legitimately inquires. You may be inviting or showing up regularly, consistently, though no one's really coming on to say, yeah, I'm interested, let's have a chat. Okay, so that's feedback, which at the beginning you might think, oh, you know what, I've got a thick skin, I'll go for it, I'll keep doing this, I won't stop. Though if it's been 90 days plus and this is the kind of result you have created, where there's no engagement, there's no inquiries for your marketing efforts to get that result, then eventually you got to look at it as a negative result. Okay, negative is a strong word, though that is not the desired result, is it? So what a lot of struggling entrepreneurs do is that they brush it off by either saying, look, I'm just probably not doing it right, so I'll just keep doing the same thing and I'll just keep doing it until it works. The problem with that is Einstein said, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, that's called insanity, right? Or some of them, what they do is that they keep changing what they do in the hope, and it's called hope marketing. They keep changing their approach by being in and start being inconsistent, and that ruins their messaging. So one day they're offering this, the next day they're offering that. They're showcasing everything that they know and can do, and the onlooker doesn't really know what to really say yes to. Because I used to do this myself, okay? I used to talk about Ayurveda, I used to talk about yoga. In my mind, as the holistic professional, I used to think, well, yeah, of course, it makes sense. Because who wouldn't want 2-in-1 person? The thing that I had to get clear about is, what is my ideal customer looking for? So anyway, that's going into the process of changing that. But let's look at, that negative feedback that's happening. It's because of those two reasons. You're either doing more of the same that's producing the same results, or you're doing too many things that are producing the negative result. No one's saying yes because that's what's happening. Third thing that we don't often talk about is some people don't even show up. Some people don't even make any offers. Some people don't even put anything out there that people can say yes to. How is that going to contribute towards the positive result? Getting me? Look, what I want to share with you is, it's not your fault. If you're thinking like, oh man, I suck, that's exactly what is not going to help you grow. Okay? So spiritually, you might give yourself the reasoning that, I suck. I haven't really been showing up 100%. I'm not following a strategy, and therefore, I'm actually not doing the right thing for my business. And you can go into a guilt trip, cycle with yourself and look down upon yourself, and you go into the hole of self-pity, and then saying, maybe I'm just playing out a scenario that I've seen some of my clients do. And then they start beating themselves up for not being good enough to do this thing. So that is diminishing you, not helping you grow, okay? But you've got to acknowledge that that's happening. That's happening internally. And often what I see struggling entrepreneurs do is that they'll use that energy, that fear energy, that, oh my God, I cannot be not good enough. I've got to make this happen. They'll use that energy to do the same things again and again. And they keep stuck in the same loop again and again. Getting this? Because they didn't do the second part. So the first part is acknowledge what meaning you're giving it. Okay, if you're looking at yourself as a loser or someone that is incapable, acknowledge that, because that's coming from a feeling, that's coming from an emotion that you've felt from the negative outcome you have experienced. So that's separate. And now I want to help you look at how to actually grow through that negative experience. Cool? So before I move on, there's more I have shared in other podcast episodes. If I find them, I'll link them below. But they're all under emotional mastery. If you are recognizing what you're feeling, then you must process those feelings before you take any action. Because until you process your emotions of what came up by experiencing those negative emotions, then all you're going to do unconsciously is repeat the same over and over again. And you can look at this as something that you've done in other places as well. I mean, if we're doing it here, we're doing it elsewhere too. So it's easier to try and fix what's happening outside, okay? But it's harder to actually acknowledge and process the emotion that we felt for what's happening outside. Hear that again. Rewind and hear that again. So it's difficult for us to change anything. It becomes difficult for us to change anything because we are not processing it from within first. So once you have processed it, by the way, this is the way we coach you inside our business coaching programs. There's nothing that we're going to make you do, like a strategy that is so basic. Most people don't get the results because they're not doing this part. They're not growing, so the business doesn't grow, right? So the growth cannot happen if they don't grow. And the only way to grow yourself is to go within. Okay, so that's part number one. Part number two is the 3-step change model. Okay, first one is awareness. Second part is alignment. And third part is then action. So now you've processed your emotions. Now you've looked at what you're thinking, how you're, perceiving the situation to be, and how, inherently when you are invested in something, of course, you're going to make meaning of it for yourself personally. It's completely natural. But I've just explained to you why you do that, right? It's because you give a damn. It's because you're invested and you take this stuff seriously. So thank God, you're feeling something. That's great. Now let's process that and let's move to the awareness part of what's exactly happened. The growth journey means you need to have a growth mindset. So I'm going to give you two, quotes you have heard before, but this is where it's at, okay? You've got to look at all failure as feedback. It's hard to do, but that's why I gave you the first part to do. Failure is feedback, and that should be your mantra when it comes to growing from failure. Failure is like it's the essential component of success. If you're not failing, that means you're not doing anything new. So how are you expecting any new results? You've heard of this before, right? If you're not failing, you're probably not going to succeed, because if you can't sit pretty in your comfort zone expecting a new result. So everything that's happening right now, it's within your comfort zone because you've already done it. Whatever you've done is within your comfort zone. Now, if you want a different result, you got to go slightly outside of your comfort zone. That cold shower, you got to get uncomfortable about whatever you're going to do next. So first become aware of this mindset you're going to go with. That is, I'm looking at this failure as feedback and I'm going to grow from it. Okay? This is essential for my growth. The second one I want to give you is, in growth mindset, everything you have created is already within your comfort zone. And to create a new outcome, it's just outside of your comfort zone. So we're not looking to go all the way outside of the comfort zone where you don't have any idea about what's going on. Rather, if you can imagine a circle and you're just going outside the circle, that's your outside of the comfort zone. That's all you have to do. And you don't need to do more than 1% daily, because it's going to need you to stay consistent, and it's going to require you, this kind of change, this kind of growth is going to demand that you show up daily, and you show up no matter what. Cool? So let's go through the awareness part. The best questions to ask for growth is, number one, what is this feedback or outcome teaching me about myself? Cool. So ask that sort of question. The reason why you're asking about what is it teaching you about yourself is going to help you look at the experience through the lens of that you're trying to learn something about yourself, not the other person. What is it teaching you about yourself? Be completely honest. I do free writing when this kind of thing, that when I do this sort of journaling, I write it out as anything that comes up. So what is this situation, feedback, outcome teaching me about myself? Second question you can ask is, what did I do or didn't do toward creating this outcome or toward receiving this feedback or toward this experience? What did I do? And then what didn't I do? So in other words, is what steps or actions did I take? Depending on the context, right? Depending on the situation. If it's, say, for example, if it was a post, you posted something and no engagement, so no leads came from that. Or you ran a campaign, no leads came from that. Okay, so you ran a campaign. What did I do? I ran this campaign. What didn't I do that led to this outcome? So then you are going to have to look at what was missing from that campaign that led to this outcome. So being very specific to the situation now, how you played a part in it following some sort of a sequence, right? So another sequence you might have done is, someone called and someone booked a call with you to talk to you about your programs or your offer, and then it turned into a no sale. So then you want to be able to ask yourself, what process did I follow that led to this outcome? So it could be a sales script. Okay. And what didn't I do that led to this no sale call? Then you can write down your reflections of, what didn't I do? What were you missing from that proven system that you were following? If you weren't following a proven system, if you weren't following a script, maybe that should be part of your realization. Okay, so if you didn't have any idea about how to handle a sales call, but then you are upset about not getting a sale, then can you see the problem in that? It's not your fault, but you're going to have to see where the problem's coming from. And finally, the final question for awareness is, who did I show up as? Okay, what sort of a role did you play in that? This is really important. Some of you may not be at this level of thinking, though I want you to start thinking. You can even ask yourself, well, what was my thinking behind doing and not doing what that contributed towards this outcome or feedback or experience? Okay, that final question could be, what was my thinking behind what I chose to do, what I chose not to do to create this outcome? Also, if you are at that level of thinking where you are aware of your role in whatever you are assessing to grow from, is you might ask yourself, well, who was I being? Who did I show up as in that scenario that caused this outcome in my experience? An example of this is when you're sharing a free talk, you're not meant to be teaching content. I know this is really, really, really advanced. Okay. Though, if you think about it like this, if you share all the information that you would share with a paid client to a non-paying person, that non-paying person does not know the value of that content yet, because they still haven't said yes to the journey of transformation, of working with you in a paid contract. So if you go into teacher mode and give all your stuff away that a paying client should be getting, then that's exactly why that sale doesn't happen. That person doesn't have any value for that information because, it's teaching. It's not giving them a reason to buy the teaching. You might be saying, you may have a situation where you're not actually selling teaching, but you are selling, everybody's selling some sort of a transformation formula, and that is teaching, that is educating. So if you stand there and talk all about what's inside your program, that's your mistake. That's the person you showed up as. You showed up as a teacher and not a marketer. Now, don't blow my head off, right? Don't get angry with me. I know this is not your fault. Nobody told you that you had to be a marketer. But guess what a marketer is? In my perspective, you are a marketer when you become a good communicator. There are systems and frameworks that we show you how to be a better marketer. Organic marketing means you are very clear about your customers' needs, values, and dreams, and aspirations and fears. And so you're not going to teach them how to overcome them. You're going to tell them things that are helping them becoming more aware of them. Okay, until they're aware of these things, they're not connecting with you. They're not connecting with you as a trusted expert. So how will they make a buying decision with you? I'm just giving you an example of this, okay? So contextually speaking, when you're talking about how did I show up, you need to become aware of what's the role you played there. Another example I can share with you is from my yoga teacher training days, where some students, these were paid students, okay? I had no skills back then to actually articulate to them that, hey, I am not your guru, okay? I'm not some person with a halo who has all the answers in the universe. That's the way we had learned yoga, where we never challenged the guru, okay? But I'm a different kind of teacher because I've been lucky to have been awakened by my teachers, by my life teachers as well. So the way I show up is very different to what they expect, from a teacher. Or they expected a teacher who doesn't even like to be questioned, but I do. Ask me questions. Show me what you're thinking. That's my approach. But I showed up as that person which they didn't like. So I got negative feedback back then. And that's because I didn't know how to articulate that that's the point of difference working with me. So later on, as I got mentoring, as I got coached, this is part of marketing where I learned to communicate the kind of teacher. My unique selling point is that I'm not a spoon feeder. I'm an empowerer as an expert. Get me? So I'm on this journey with you. I'm not up somewhere on a mountain throwing down rope going, here we go, come along, come up. No, I'm walking it with you. I've always been like this. So there's the difference, right? So you got to ask yourself that final question is, how did I show up, or who did I show up as that caused this experience and outcome? Okay, so that's it. Part of that awareness piece is asking such meaningful questions which will expose and give you all that was there to learn about the gaps. Or if there were gaps, okay? There's always a gap. That's because you're coming from the mindset of failure is feedback for you, for your growth. So the second step is alignment. The second piece is alignment. And in the alignment section, you're basically going to look at what you wrote down, and you're going to have a conversation with yourself about what you discovered about yourself from awareness. And one such question we start off with is, What, if any, of this situation can I do differently to create a positive outcome? What, if any, if there is any things differently that I can do to create a positive outcome? Now, sometimes you may have a situation where the other person showed up as really poorly, and that's okay. You can still come to an understanding, what's the part you played in it? Maybe, okay, this is an example that I learned through not having clear terms and conditions written down about missed payment, okay? So negative outcome was the person that was my client kept missing their payments. That it was a direct debit and it was always needing follow-up. Okay, we give you some chances, but after a while, then we have to kind of, charge a penalty. So every month their payment was declining, right? And that costs us admin fees. And that costs us a lot of admin time to follow up, to do the reconciling, etc., etc. So my lesson was, what are the things I can do to show up or do things differently to create a positive outcome? So we changed our terms and conditions that we pointed out right from the beginning to all clients that go on our auto payment plans. So some things like this, you may have to look at it really objectively and look at what needs to change next time. Second, what changes can I make from what I have learned about me? Okay. My process. So the process will be either it's a sales process, marketing process, or a client acquisition process, or your profit plan process, or whatever the process you followed, it's what needs to be reviewed. You say, what changes can I make from what I have learned about my process? And next is, what have I learned from my actions? What changes can I make from what I have learned about my actions? And what changes can I make about what I've learned on my inactions? And finally, what changes can I make from what I have learned about my thoughts or thinking? Okay, those are the factors that you want to review, revise, and be clear about making changes to. So action can be 1% every day. Now, example of that is, suppose your presentation lacked connection to who was there as an audience. What do? Do you change the presentation straight away, like everything changes straight away? I would recommend having a sit down and look at the way you work out the languaging of that presentation. So break up the project into parts, which talks about why you're currently trying to do a presentation as part of your marketing process. Then why should someone like that listen to this? What can they do with that information? And then how can you help them trust you better instead of educate them about how much you know? Instead, can you try and understand those people a little bit more, right? So all of this ends up becoming can you do one piece at a time that leads you to a deeper, higher quality presentation. Okay, so what might be a result of doing all of this? Have you wondered? Now that you have learned to acknowledge the emotions and process it so you don't actually put yourself down, instead you're lifting yourself up, You tell yourself like, I've got you, I'm on your team, and this part of the failure is actually an essential part of your growth, where you are to where you're going, right? And then if you give yourself the exact action steps that you need to take from a very thorough, empowered set of thinking that goes behind taking action instead of just fixing the thing. Can you see the difference it might make to make such a cohesive mind, spirit, emotion sort of decision to act differently, to think differently, feel differently, and act differently? Okay, so that is my process for you to help you to grow from negative feedback and outcomes. I would love to hear about what you thought of this episode, and if you are going to use this at this point of the year. And let me know if there is anything else that came up for you while you're listening. I'd love to get some feedback, right? I'm learning too. And did I share too much? Did I not share enough? Was this too basic for you? Was this not relevant for you? On the holistic business owner's journey, this has been one of my mantras. Failure is feedback. Because if I'm not failing, that means I'm not trying. If I'm not doing anything new, that means I'm not on the path of success. I'm staying in my comfort zone. And mistakes will happen, but we need to have a positive way of working with mistakes to encourage ourselves to keep making mistakes, because mistakes are meaning that we're trying new things, and it's okay to be not perfect. It's okay to not know everything. But that also means that we are moving forward 1% every single day by doing something differently, by thinking differently, feeling differently, acting differently, from learning to process what's showing up currently. Thank you so much for being here. I love making this podcast, and thank you so much for helping us celebrate our 100th episode. Today, I'm giving away a copy of our ebook, 6 Secrets to Magnetizing Your Dream Clients, to everyone that puts a review on our channel, our podcast channel. Please put your review in, and I will be on the lookout for all the reviews and feedback that you give. If you can follow our podcast show on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you're listening to this from, then I am going to look at those reviews, and I'm going to contact you to give you a copy of our brand new ebook. This is the exact formula that is coming up as a 90-day challenge very soon. We will announce that very soon. Though if you are currently working on being a better marketer, then this is your 6-step process that you can finish within a week. And secondly, if you are watching this on YouTube, please leave us a comment and let us know when you have gone and subscribed to our podcast, and we'll keep a lookout for you for your review as well. Please go and support our podcast show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you subscribe to your podcasts, and we'd love to give you our 6-step program that's an ebook. Okay, thanks a lot, guys. Thank you so much. Have a lovely week ahead.